Good morning, students. I welcome you today to this subject of structures and functions of excretory organs in mammals. The structures and the functions of excretory organs in mammals. Before I go on, I want to define what excretion means. Excretion is a process of removing wastes from the body. It can be in the form of solid, liquid, or gas. Wastes are useless to the body, but if left to build up inside a person, they could become poisonous and result in illness or death. What is excretion again? Another definition says that excretion is the removal of waste products of metabolism. Waste product of metabolism from the body. Excretion is different from egestion. Egestion is the removal of undigested waste from the alimentary canal, which is different from metabolic waste. So excretion is not just removal of waste, it is the removal of waste product of metabolism. In the case of egestion, which we have in the form of excreta or feces, it is the removal of undigested waste from the alimentary canal, and that is different from excretion. It is not a metabolic waste. Unicellular organisms can remove waste by diffusion across their cell membranes, but complex organisms like animals require excretory organs. The main excretory organs in humans is the skin, lungs, and the kidneys. In mammals, some of the excretory products and the excretory organ are shown in this table. Carbon dioxide is an excretory product, and the excretory organs involved in the removal of carbon dioxide is the lung, and gas is removed by expiration. Another excretory product is mineral salts. Mineral salts are excreted from the kidney through the action of the organ kidney, and they are constituents of urine. Another excretory organ is nitrogenous excretory product is nitrogenous wastes, mainly from deamination of proteins, creatinine, from nucleic tissue breakdown, uric acid from breakdown of nuclear materials, and this is excreted from the skin. These they are constituents of sweat, only in small quantities, for nitrogenous waste products. Then another excretory product in animals is excess water. Excess water can be removed from the body through the action of the following organs: skin, kidney, and the lungs. The one removed from the kidney is removed through urination. From the skin is removed through sweating, and from the lungs through water vapor in expired air. Another excretory product is our bile pigments from the breakdown of hemoglobin, and this is excreted through the organ liver, and it is removed through the intestine. Out of all these excretory organs that I mentioned, the main one is the kidney, and we're going to dwell and take some time to look at the kidney of mammals and how the nephrons perform osmoregulation. The nephron is the key part of the kidney that is actually doing the work of removal of waste product of metabolism. Now, talking about the kidneys. Although the kidneys are the major osmoregulatory organ, the skin and lungs also play a role in the process. Water and electrolytes are lost through sweat glands in the skin, which helps moisturize and cool the skin surface, while the lungs expel a small amount of water in the form of mucous secretions and via evaporation of water vapor. Kidneys are the main osmoregulatory organ. The kidneys in mammals are a pair of bean-shaped structures that are located just below and posterior to the liver, that is at the back of the liver, in the peritoneal cavity. The adrenal glands sit on top of each kidney and are also called the suprarenal glands. Kidneys filter blood and purify it. All the blood in the human body is filtered many times a day by the kidneys. These organs use up almost 25% of the oxygen absorbed through the lungs to perform this function. Oxygen allows the kidney cells to efficiently manufacture chemical energy in the form of ATP through aerobic respiration. The filtrate coming out of the kidneys is called urine or urine. The structure of the kidney. Looking at the kidney externally, the kidneys are surrounded by 3 layers. The outermost layer is a tough, non-connective tissue layer called the renal fascia. Fascia is F-A-S-C-I-A. The second layer is called the perirenal fat capsule, which helps anchor the kidneys in place. The third and innermost layer is the renal capsule. Internally, the kidney has 3 regions: an outer cortex, a medulla in the middle, and the renal pelvis in the region called the hilum of the kidney. Hilum is spelled H-I-L-U-M of the kidney. The hilum is the concave part of the bean shape where blood vessels and nerves enter and exit the kidney. It is also the point of exit for the ureters. The renal cortex is granular due to the presence of nephrons. The functional unit of the kidney, that is the nephron. The nephron is the functional unit of the kidney. This is a key question in JAMB when they ask questions on the kidney most times. The medulla consists of multiple pyramidal tissue masses called the renal pyramids. In between the pyramids are spaces called renal columns through which the blood vessels pass. The tips of the pyramids, called renal papillae, point toward the renal pelvis. There are, on average, 8 renal pyramids in each kidney. The renal pyramids, along with the adjoining cortical region, are called the lobes of the kidney. The renal pelvis leads to the ureter on the outside of the kidney. On the inside of the kidney, the renal pelvis branches out into 2 or 3 extensions called the major calyces. Calyces is spelled C-A-L-Y-C-E-S, which further branch into the minor calyces. The ureters are urine-bearing tubes that exit the kidney and empty into the urinary bladder. So the diagrams of all I'm saying are shown. This diagram is showing the renal artery, adrenal gland on top of the kidney, and the kidney. We have dealt with circulation, and we know that artery carry blood away from the heart. So the renal artery has to do with kidney. So the renal artery is carrying blood from the heart to the kidney. Then we have renal vein, which is bluish in color. The red one is the oxygenated blood from the heart. The renal vein, which is that the red colored renal vein, is showing that the blood is oxygenated. Then the renal artery showing that it is red, showing that the blood is oxygenated from the heart. And then the renal vein showing that is bluish in color, showing that the blood is deoxygenated and is going back to the heart. Then the ureter is shown, and the bladder. Ureter empties into the bladder, and that takes it to the urethra, which makes inside of the system where it is emptied out. Then the renal pelvis is also shown together with the kidney and other parts of the body in terms of kidney. Another diagram showing the internal structure of the kidney is shown here, and is showing the capillaries, the arteriole, the venule, the renal vein, and the renal vein is bluish again, and the renal artery, the medulla is shown, and then the ureter, and then the renal trachea and capsule are also shown. Okay. The renal cortex, together with the major calyx, and the major calyx are shown, and then the renal pelvis, and then the renal pyramid. These are constituent parts of the internal part of the bean-shaped kidney. Now let's go on. Because the kidney filters blood, its network of blood vessels is an important component of its structure and function. The arteries, veins, and nerves that supply the kidney enter and exit at the renal ileum. Renal blood supply starts with the branching of the aorta into the renal arteries, which are each named based on the region of the kidney they pass through, and ends with the exiting of the renal veins to join the inferior vena cava. The renal arteries split into several segmental arteries upon entering the kidneys. Each segmental artery splits further into several interlobar arteries. Interlobar is interlobar, interlobar arteries, and enters the renal columns, which supply the renal lobes. The interlobar arteries split at the junction of the renal cortex and medulla to form the arcuate arteries. The arcuate bow-shaped arteries form arcs along the base of the medullary pyramids. Medullary is MEDULLARY, medullary pyramids. Cortical radiate arteries, as the name suggests, radiate out from the articular arteries. The cortex radiate arteries branch into numerous afferent arterioles, and then enter the capillaries supplying the nephrons. Veins trace the path of the arteries and have similar names, except there are no segmental veins. As I previously mentioned, the functional unit of the kidney is the nephron, and nephron is spelled Nephron. Each kidney is made up of over 1 million nephrons that dot the renal cortex, giving it a granular appearance when sectioned sagittally. There are two types of nephrons. Number one is the cortical nephrons, which makes up about 85% of the nephron, which are deep in the renal cortex. And the second type of nephron is the juxtamedullary nephrons. The juxtamedullary nephrons make up 15% of the nephrons, and they lie in the renal cortex close to the renal medulla. Let me spell the second type of nephron, which is the juxtamedullary. Juxtamedullary is spelled JUXTAMEDULLARY. A nephron consists of three parts: a renal corpuscle, a renal tubule, and the associated capillary network, which originates from the cortical radiate arteries. So all I'm saying so far are shown in this diagram here, showing the nephron as the functional unit of the kidney, and also showing the glomerulus and the convoluted tubules located in the kidney cortex, while collecting ducts are located in the pyramids of the medulla. So the nephron is shown, and other parts are also shown. So we go on now to talk about the renal corpuscle. The renal corpuscle is located in the renal cortex and is made up of a network of capillaries known as the glomerulus, and the capsule, a cup-shaped chamber that surrounds it, called the glomerular or the Bowman's capsule. It's called the glomerular or the Bowman's capsule. Glomerular is Glomerular, while glomerulus is Glomerulus. Now let's talk about the renal tubule. Renal tubule is a long and convoluted structure that emerges from the glomerulus and can be divided into three parts based on function. The first part is called the proximal convoluted tubule, PCT, due to its proximity to the glomerulus. It stays in the renal cortex. The second part is called the loop of Henle. The Henle is somebody's name, so it is capital H, Henle, or the loop of Henle is also called the nephritic loop because it forms a loop with descending and ascending limbs that goes through the renal medulla. The third part of the renal tubule is called the distal convoluted tubule, DCT, and this part is also restricted to the renal cortex. The distal convoluted tubule, DCT, which is the last part of the nephron, connects and empties its contents into collecting ducts that line the medullary pyramids. The collecting ducts amass contents from multiple nephrons and fuse together as they enter the papillae of the renal medulla. Now, let me talk about the capillary network that is within the nephron. The capillary network that begins from the renal arteries supplies the nephrons with blood that needs to be filtered. The branch that enters the glomerulus is called the afferent arteriole. Remember that the kidney is an organ of excretion. So it is what needs to be filtered, waste product that needs to be taken out, that needs to be sieved out, that is being passed to the kidney. And then the kidney try to do is like a sieve, try to sieve out to make sure that useful food particles are not thrown away in the waste. That is what the kidney is doing, is making sure that useful food particles are not thrown out, such that if useful food particles are thrown out in the form of excreta, in the form of urine, in the form of excretory products, what happens is that the individual that is eating will be emaciated, will be getting emaciated. So the kidney works hard to make sure that useful food particles are not removed, are not excreted. Only the ones that are not useful are removed. The branch that exits the glomerulus, as I said, is called the efferent arteriole, while the branch that enters the glomerulus is called the afferent arteriole. Within the glomerulus, the network of capillaries is called the glomerular capillary bed. Once the efferent arteriole exits the glomerulus, it forms the peritubular capillary network, which surrounds and interacts with parts of the renal tubule. In cortical nephrons, the peritubular capillary network surrounds the PCT and DCT. In juxtamedullary nephrons, the peritubular capillary network forms a network around the loop of Henle and is called the vasa recta. So the vasa recta is a network formed by the peritubular capillary network. Now, what are the functions of the kidney, and what is the physiology of the kidney? How does it work? How does it function? What is the mode of action? How does the kidney actually work? What is the mechanism? That's the word I'm looking for. Mechanism of action of the kidney. Kidneys filter blood in a 3-step process. You can see, I told you that the kidney is just making sure that only waste product of metabolism, only excretory waste are removed from the body. So the kidney does work and make sure it does the first one, does the second one, before it now say, okay, it's okay, it throws it out. So the kidneys filter blood in a 3-step process. First, the nephrons filter blood that runs through the capillary network in the glomerulus. Almost all solutes, except for proteins, are filtered out into the glomerulus by a process called glomerular filtration. So if the process is called glomerular filtration, the product of glomerular filtration is also called glomerular filtrate. I think that is clear. Secondly, the filtrate is collected in the renal tubules. Most of the solutes get reabsorbed in the PCT by a process called tubular reabsorption. You can see now, most of the solutes that have been filtered, they get reabsorbed again, and that is called tubular reabsorption. In the loop of Henle, the filtrate continues to exchange solutes and water and the renal with the renal medulla and the peritubular capillary network. Water is also reabsorbed during this step. You see, water in the body are not supposed to be removed just anyhow. So it is only the waste product of metabolism. That is what the kidney is making sure of. That only waste product of metabolism, not needed by the body, are going to be removed. So in the loop of Henle, the filtrate continues to exchange solutes and water with the renal medulla and the peritubular capillary network. Water is also reabsorbed during this step. Then additional solutes and waste are secreted into the kidney tubules during tubular secretion, which is in essence the opposite process to tubular reabsorption. The collecting ducts collect filtrate coming from the nephrons and fuse in the medullary papillae. From here, the papillae deliver the filtrate, now called urine, into the minor calyces that eventually connect to the ureters through the renal pelvis. I say it from the minor calyces, it connects to the ureter. U-R-E-T-E-R-S is different from U-R-E-T-H-R-A. So this is the ureter, not urethra. So let's take note of that. So as I said earlier, from here, the papillae deliver the filtrate, now called urine or urine, into the minor calyces that eventually connect to the ureters through the renal pelvis. So this diagram again is showing each part of the nephron performing a different function in filtering waste and maintaining homeostatic balance. The first number one on the diagram is that the glomerulus forces small solutes out of the blood by pressure. So that is what happens. See, that aspect, the ascending loop is ascending. As it ascends, the tubes expand. So it reabsorbs sodium ion and chloride from the filtrate into the interstitial fluid. Number two is the proximal convoluted tubule that reabsorbs ions, water, and nutrients from the filtrate into the interstitial fluid and actively transport toxins and drugs from the interstitial fluid into the filtrate. The proximal convoluted tubule also adjusts blood pH by selectively secreting ammonia into the filtrate, where it reacts with hydrogen to form ammonium. The more acidic the filtrate, the more ammonia is secreted. Number three in the diagram is the descending loop of Henle. The descending loop of Henle, which is lined with cells containing aquaporins that allow water to pass from the filtrate into the interstitial fluids. Then number 4 on the diagram is in the thin part of the ascending loop of Henle, sodium ion and chloride ions diffuse into the interstitial fluid. In the thick part, these same ions are actively transported into the interstitial fluid because salts but not water is lost. The filtrate becomes more dilute as it travels up the limb. In the number 5 in the diagram, in the distal convoluted tubule, potassium ions and hydrogen ions are selectively secreted into the filtrate, while sodium ion, chloride ion, and HCO3 ions are reabsorbed to maintain pH and electrolyte balance in the blood. Number 6 is depicting the collecting duct, which reabsorbs solutes and water from the filtrate, forming dilute urine. So the urine that is formed is dilute. Now let's talk about glomerular filtration. How does it take place? How does it happen? Glomerular filtration filters out most of the solutes due to high blood pressure and specialized membranes in the afferent arteriole. The blood pressure in the glomerulus is maintained independent of factors that affect systemic blood pressure. The leaky connections between the endothelial cells of the glomerular capillary network allow solutes to pass through easily. All solutes in the glomerular capillaries except for macromolecules like proteins pass through by passive diffusion. There is no energy requirement at this stage of the filtration process. Glomerular filtration rate, GFR, is the volume of glomerular filtrate formed per minute by the kidneys. So let's take note of that. Glomerular filtration rate is the volume of glomerular filtrate formed per minute by the kidneys. Glomerular filtration rate is regulated by multiple mechanisms and is an important indicator of kidney function. Now let's talk about the tubular reabsorption and secretion. Tubular reabsorption occurs in the PCT part of the renal tubule. Almost all nutrients are reabsorbed, and this occurs either by active or by passive transport. Reabsorption of water and some key electrolytes are regulated and can be influenced by hormones. Sodium ions is the most abundant ion, and most of it is reabsorbed by active transport and then transported to the peritubular capillaries. Because sodium ion is actively transported out of the tubule, water follows it to even out the osmotic pressure. Water is also independently reabsorbed into the peritubular capillaries due to the presence of aquaporins or water channels. Aquaporins is spelled AQUAPORINS due to the presence of aquaporins or water channels. In the PCT, this occurs due to the low blood pressure and high osmotic pressure in the peritubular capillaries. However, every solute has a transport maximum, and excess is not reabsorbed. In the loop of Henle, the permeability of the membrane changes. The ascending limb is permeable to water, not solutes. The opposite is true for the ascending limb. Additionally, the loop of Henle invades the renal medulla, which is naturally high in salt concentration and tends to absorb water from the renal tubule and concentrate the filtrate. The osmotic gradient increases as it moves deeper into the medulla because two sides of the loop of Henle perform opposing functions. It acts as a countercurrent multiplier. The vasa recta around it acts as the countercurrent exchanger. So the diagram shown here, the U-shaped, is the loop of Henle which acts as an countercurrent multiplier that uses energy to create concentration gradients. The descending limb is water permeable. Water flows from the filtrate to the interstitial fluid. So osmolality inside the limb increases as it descends into the renal medulla. At the bottom, the osmolality is higher inside the loop than in the interstitial fluid. Thus, as filtrate enters the ascending limb, sodium ion and chloride ions exit through ion channels present in the cell membrane. Further up, sodium ion is actively transported out of the filtrate and chloride ion follows. Osmolarity is given in units of millismoles per liter. So that is shown in the diagram. Now, by the time the filtrate reaches the DCT, what happens? Most of the urine and solutes will have been reabsorbed. If the body requires additional water, all of it can be reabsorbed at the point. Further reabsorption is controlled by hormones, which we are going to discuss very soon in the next few minutes. Excretion of water occurs due to lack of reabsorption combined with tubular secretion. Undesirable products like metabolic waste, urea, uric acid, and certain drugs are excreted by tubular secretion. Most of the tubular secretion happens in the DCT, but some occurs in the early part of the collecting duct. Kidneys also maintain an acid-base balance by secreting excess hydrogen ions. Although parts of the renal tubules are named proximal and distal, in a cross-section of the kidney, the tubules are placed close together and in contact with each other and glomerulus. This follows the exchange of chemical messengers between the different cell types. For example, the DCT ascending limb of the loop of Henle has masses of cells called macula densa. Macula is M-A-C-U-L-A. Densa is D-E-N-S-A, which are in contact with cells of the afferent arterioles called juxtaglomerular cells. Together, the macula densa and juxtaglomerular cells form the juxtaglomerular complex, JGC. The juxtaglomerular complex is an endocrine structure and that secretes the enzyme renin and the hormone erythropoietin. Renin is R-E-N-I-N and erythropoietin is E-R-Y-T-I-T-H-R-O-P-O-I-E-T-I-N. When hormones trigger the macula densa cells in the DCT due to variations in blood volume, blood pressure or electrolyte balance, these cells can immediately communicate the problem to the capillaries in the in the afferent and efferent arterioles, which can constrict or relax to change the glomerular filtration rate of the kidneys. So all these I've been explaining are what happens inside of the kidney in the process of its producing urine. There's what is called ultrafiltration. It makes sure that no waste, no useful waste material is excreted out of the kidney. That is the work of the kidney, and the active component or the main part of the kidney is what is called the nephron. Now let's talk about another thing about the kidney, which has to do with hormones. So we are talking about hormonal regulation of osmoregulation in mammals. How is our hormones hormonal regulation of osmoregulation in mammals? While the kidneys operate to maintain osmotic balance and blood pressure in the body, they also act in concert with hormones. Hormones are small molecules that act as messengers within the body. Hormones are typically secreted from one cell and travel in the bloodstream to affect a target cell in another portion of the body. Different regions of the nephron bear specialized cells that have receptors to respond to chemical messengers and hormones. Now, we have different hormones and where they are produced and their function shown in the table below. These are hormones that affect osmoregulation shown in the table below. So we have the hormone. The first hormone is epinephrine and norepinephrine. They are produced in the adrenal medulla. What is their function? The function is they can decrease kidney function temporarily by vasoconstriction. Another hormone is renin, and they are found in, or they are produced in the kidney nephrons. What is their function? What do? They increase blood pressure by acting on angiotensinogen. Angiotensinogen, that is spelled as I've just pronounced it, angio, A-N-G-I-O, tensin, T-N-S-I-N, ogene, O-G-E-S-I-N-O-G-E-N. Another hormone is angiotensin, which is produced in the liver. Angiotensin 2 affects multiple processes and increases blood pressure. Another hormone is aldosterone, which can, for spelling purpose, you can call it androsterone. So you can remember that there is an E at the end. Aldosterone is produced in the adrenal cortex, and the function is to prevent loss of sodium and water. Another hormone is the antidiuretic hormone, which is also called vasopressin, and it is produced in the hypothalamus and stored in the posterior pituitary. I think this has to do with the brain, produced in the brain, and it prevents water loss. It prevents water loss. It makes sure that water is not lost on the body. Then another kind of a hormone is not lost on the body in form of urine. That is what is happening. It prevents water loss on the body in form of urine, so that when you have water in the bladder and it's not yet time, it locks it up. It locks it up. If you have a water tanker, container in your house, maybe 2,000 liter water container, or 2005 or 1005 or 4,000 liter water container that you open and you store water in the tank. Now, what the antidiuretic hormone does is that it's like the lock. It's like the lock of the urethra. It's like the lock of the bladder, which makes urine not to come out when it's not supposed to come out. Just like when you close the tap, water does not gush out. But the moment the tap is open, water begins to gush out like that. So this hormone is what helps us to close the urine tap so that urine does not just start continue coming out of our body continuously and we lose water. So it prevents water loss. Then another hormone is atrial natriuretic peptide. This is produced in the heart atrium and it decreases blood pressure by acting as a vasodilator and increasing glomerular filtration rate. It decreases sodium reabsorption in kidneys. You see, now we're talking about excretion, we have gone into circulation, now we are talking about the heart, and we are talking about even the brain. All the systems in the body, they work together, and this is why we have to take good care of our bodies before our body starts demanding for care. If you take care of the body before you start demanding for care, by so doing, the body is going to last longer and you will not have any problem whatsoever. Now, let's talk about some of these hormones that we have mentioned. Epinephrine and norepinephrine. Epinephrine and norepinephrine are released by the adrenal medulla and nervous system, respectively. They are the fight hormones that are released when the body is under extreme stress. During stress, much of the body's energy is used to combat imminent danger. Kidney function is altered temporarily by epinephrine and norepinephrine. These hormones function by acting directly on the smooth muscles of the blood vessels to constrict them. Once the afferent arteries are constricted, blood will now flow into the nephrons. Blood flow into the nephrons will now stop. These hormones go one step further and trigger the renin angiotensin aldosterone system. So they trigger the system, and then how does the renin angiotensin aldosterone system work? The renin angiotensin aldosterone system proceeds through several steps to produce angiotensin 2, which acts as to stabilize blood pressure and volume. Renin, which is secreted by a part of the juxtaglomerular complex, is produced by the granular cells of the afferent and efferent arteries. Thus, the kidneys control blood pressure and volume directly. Renin acts on angiotensinogen, which is made in the liver, and converts it to angiotensin 1. Angiotensin converting enzyme ACE converts angiotensin 1 to angiotensin 2. Angiotensin 2 raises blood pressure by constricting blood vessels. It also triggers the release of the mineral glucocorticoid aldosterone from the adrenal cortex, which in turn stimulates the renal tubules to reabsorb more sodium. Angiotensin 2 also triggers the release of antidiuretic hormone from the hypothalamus of the brain, leading to water retention in the kidneys. It acts directly on the nephrons and decreases glomerular filtration rate. Medically, blood pressure can be controlled by drugs that inhibit ACE, called ACE inhibitors. You see, when somebody is angry or is tensed up, some of these processes are triggered. The person tends to sweat more, and then the production of urine is stopped for that period, the blood pressure increases and many things happen. You see, some people that have high blood pressure, when they are angered, what happens is that the anything can happen. They can have cardiac arrest. So it is advised lifestyle. Sometimes some of the issues that people have, if they can control their lifestyle, and they can at least control or manage some of their ailments. So if someone that knows, or whether you have high blood pressure or not, you should take life easy, take things easy, and walk away from danger, walk away from trouble sometimes, and just walk away. It's not everything you claim your right on. You sometimes you have to just let go of certain things so that peace will reign and everybody can be at peace. Now, I have the diagram showing that what I've just explained, the renin and the renin angiotensin and the other the hormones and how they work is shown. The renin angiotensin aldosterone system increases blood volume and it also increases blood pressure. So the process I've explained is simply shown in this diagram that follows, showing the ADH in the brain, AMP around the heart area, and others like that. Let's take time to study them and take a look at the diagram to have proper understanding. Now I must say that sometimes some of these diagrams you may be asked to draw them or to put them down with the labels. So I want us to take all that seriously and to practice all that. Now we go to the next item before we call it a day with excretion. You're going to take your time to look at the excretion through the skin on your own, and through the lungs. You take your time to read on that. But the main organ of excretion in the body is the kidney, and that's why we are devoting the most of the time to the kidney. Now, let's talk about mineral low corticoids. Melatocorticoids are hormones synthesized by the adrenal cortex that affect osmotic balance. Aldosterone is a mineralocorticoid that regulates sodium levels in the blood. Almost all of the sodium in the blood is reclaimed by the renal tubules under the influence of aldosterone. Because sodium is always reabsorbed by active transport and water follows sodium to maintain osmotic balance, aldosterone manages not only sodium levels but also the water levels in body fluids. So you can see the correlation. All the parts of the body, they are correlated. Sodium is moving out. Normally water will follow sodium. So as this hormone is regulating the sodium in the body, it's also regulating the water, because the moment sodium moves, water moves and follows the sodium. In contrast, the aldosterone also stimulates potassium secretion concurrently with sodium reabsorption. In contrast, absence of aldosterone means that no sodium gets reabsorbed in the renal tubules and all of it gets excreted in the urine. In addition, the daily dietary potassium load is not secreted, and the retention of potassium ion can cause a dangerous increase in plasma potassium concentration. Patients who have Addison's disease have a failing adrenal cortex and cannot produce aldosterone. They lose sodium in their urine constantly, and if the supply is not replenished, the consequences can be fatal in the form of death. Now, there's some people that say that some people take urine. Normally, urine contains the waste product of metabolism. If actually the kidney is working properly, there's no point drinking your urine. Whether the kidney is working properly or not working properly, there's no point, there's no reason why anybody should drink urine. But Those who are advocating for the drinking of urine, which I've seen in many places, what happened is that, like in this case we are just looking at now, about patients who have Addison's disease and they have a failing adrenal cortex and they cannot produce aldosterone, so they lose sodium in their urine. So if somebody that is such individual that lose sodium in their urine, people that claim that urine is good, this is what they are banking on. So if the person does not have aldosterone and cannot reabsorb sodium, so the sodium that is supposed to still remain in the body is removed from the body in the form is excreted from the body, just because this particular hormone is absent. So some people, they claim that they drink urine. That is the kind of urine they drink, but not urine that is wastewater of metabolism. But I do not subscribe to drinking of urine. What I subscribe to is that take good care of your body. Don't take any substance that is going to affect your kidney, affect your liver, affect any organ or any part of your body. Don't take any of such substance. Just be yourself, be natural, and then your organs are going to be prolonged and are going to serve you very well. Now, let's talk about antidiuretic hormone. Antidiuretic is antidiuretic. I know you've heard about antidiuretic hormone in your secondary school when excretion was treated, but I'm also sure that not in the form or not explained or not detailed as we're doing now. As I've said previously, antidiuretic hormone or ADH, also called vasopressin, as the name suggests, helps the body conserve water when body fluid volume, especially that of the blood, is low. It is formed by the hypothalamus and is stored and released from the posterior pituitary. It acts by inserting aquaporins in the collecting ducts and promotes reabsorption of water. ADH, antidiuretic hormone, also acts as a vasoconstrictor and increases blood pressure during hemorrhage. Now let's talk about atrial natriuretic peptide hormone. Atrial natriuretic peptide lowers blood pressure, that's AMP, by acting as a vasodilator. It acts as a vasodilator and lowers the blood pressure. It is released by cells in the atrium of the heart in response to high blood pressure and in patients with sleep apnea. The atrial natriuretic peptide AMP affects salt release, and because water passively flows, salt to maintain osmotic balance, it also has a diuretic effect. Atrial natriuretic peptide also prevents sodium reabsorption by the renal tubes, decreasing water reabsorption, thus acting as a diuretic and lowering blood pressure. Its action suppresses the actions of aldosterone, ADH, and the action of renin. This is where we're going to stop this class for now. If I want to read this material and also read more about the skin and other organs of excretion, like the lungs, the lungs and the liver, note that digested food is not a waste product of metabolism. So if food is digested from the body, it is not a waste product of metabolism. That is just undigested food. You want that is removed in the form of excreta or in the form of feces through the anus. So it is not a waste product of metabolism. So let's take note of that and they differentiate it from excretion. That is just is something else. It is not excretion. It's not excretion because waste that is removed is not that of metabolism. So let's take note of that. The waste that is removed is just egestion. That's egestion. So egestion is different from excretion. That is the first thing you must know when it comes to excretion. I'm going to talk to you some other time when we have another class. We're going to have a series of quizzes using the Google quiz, and I'm going to give you some Google quizzes to check out if you really get what I've been talking about all this while. So until I come your way next time, have a good time and be studious. Bye for now.